companies and your personal information. Your DNA information can be sold and weaponized against you. The alarm being sounded. Listen to this.
You can actually take someone's DNA, take their medical profile, and you can target a biological weapon that will kill that person. And people will very rapidly spit into a cup and send it into 23andMe and get really interesting data about their background. And guess what? Their DNA is now owned by a private company and can be sold off. We have to have an open and public discussion about what does the protection of healthcare information, DNA information, and your data look like, because that data is actually going to be procured and collected by our adversaries for the development of these systems.
And before anybody goes crazy on this out there, that's a Democrat Congressman, Jason Crow, so not a right-wing talking point. I have been warning people about this for years, since 23andMe and all those spit in the vial, send it in. We're giving our information away. Health information is valuable information about you, and also the abuse and where the data is stored.
China, of course, over a decade ago, like they do everything, moved into this. We're allowing China in relationships with hospitals, buying up companies regarding medical data, involved in when it comes to paternity and maternity, finding out about your fetus and the health of your baby as the baby's developing. It goes to China. The control and the knowledge, the data they have, to say nothing of hackings of hospitals, hackings of our health insurance companies, right? The Office of Personnel Management, Obamacare. Really, we're looking at China and Russia, etc. So in deals that the American government could control, we have less control over data. We're allowing foreign countries, enemies, to gather this data. And yes, to potentially use it. The fact that that discussion was at the Aspen gathering with American leadership, not in a cave somewhere on ham radio with conspiracy theorists. They've known this for at least a decade, and our government has done nothing to change it. So my message is, it's not the data or learning about who you are that's the problem, any more than a firearm is the problem. It's whose hand is the data in. And that's what we are aware of when it comes to firearms, when it comes to the nature of this. We don't, it's like suddenly they're saying, don't use the data, don't use don't find this out. We need to be able to, but they're correct. Right now, our enemies have access to that information.
So Tammy brought up government, and there's a process that we have, in various processes, and a responsibility for Congress to deal with these companies that come into our country, invest, Chinese Communist Party controlled countries, the CFIUS process and others, which covers anything of national security interest. So to the former congressman here.
And the problem with CFIUS is the fact that you have the board members of CFIUS who are not just serving government and the people, they're looking for their next life outside of government. And so they'll make decisions that are not in Tammy's best interest, that the Chinese government's not going to get her DNA information.
Right.
They look at themselves and where they're going to work once they're out of government. The problem is, if I spit in a cup, that's one thing. But if my cousins or my parents or my siblings spit in a cup, they get my DNA regardless. And so when I was in Congress, we were dealing with DNA. We were dealing with social media privacy. Your information on the internet, on social media, should be yours. And people that are our age, I'm excluding Jackie, our age, we actually care about privacy. But everyone Jackie's age, they couldn't give a darn. They're like, take it, I don't care.
They haven't known it. They haven't known privacy.
Because they haven't known privacy. We have, and we've lost it. They've never known it, so they don't know what they're missing.
All right, so let's add another aspect to this.
Chicken.
Senator Joni Ernst weighed in on this. And by the way, let me add, how many of you have added your animal DNA out there to find out who your animals are from? But here's what Senator Joni Ernst had to say.
If we look at food security, and what can our adversaries do with biological weapons that are directed at our animal agriculture, at our agricultural sector? Hoof and mouth disease, highly pathogenic avian influenza, African swine fever. If targeted by an adversary, we know that it brings about food insecurity.
And she's
Joni to
100%
Jackie.
right. She's 100% right. And look, when it comes to data, the point that you made about social media and the fact that our data has been cannibalized for years now already, it should be no surprise to anybody that the 23andMe, for example, could turn into this. The weaponizing of it is something that we're all thinking about after COVID-19. If you subscribe to the theory, even if it was an accident that COVID originated in the lab, you can see the catastrophic consequences of what could happen there. And so people really need to think about what they subscribe to. The power that we have right now is not with Congress. It's actually with the individuals. And I tell people all the time, don't put Alexa in your house if you don't want people listening to you. Don't buy 23andMe if you're against what they're doing with the data. All we can do is stand up for ourselves and protect ourselves and not sort of follow the herd, follow the crowd.
Did you guys hear that? They can weaponize a virus to attack your DNA, right? I mean, what are you guys doing? Why would you go to do that free willy-nilly? We have HIPAA in our country, which they totally just rifled over, okay? Which is actually a law. Any of that other stuff was mandates and BS, no laws. This is actually a law that your private medical information, still a law, is not to be blabbed out all over the place, right? People running around. This is why kids today have no privacy issues. I got COVID, I tested positive, I got the this, I got the that, you know what I mean? They're just blab it all over social media. They have no respect for privacy at all, right? That's the groupthink mentality, and that's why we're going to be in big problem. So the article they're talking about is plain and simple. A Democrat brought it to the attention. Why are we allowing foreign countries to buy up all this important stuff? And this all started back with Clinton too. You can do your homework on that. Why are we doing that? What is wrong? Are we a special kind of stupid, right? And they're raising the alarm bells. And then, you know, it's on Fox News, so that's why I had to preface this with all these news agencies are bogus, right? But they do drip out these little things so your psychology can accept it, okay? So they're dripping this out right now. So, you know, we're getting closer and closer to these elections in our country. The closer we get, the more all this stuff's going to ramp back up. You don't have to understand, man. They want the mail-in ballots because they can control the vote. I know this is going to be a bad video. I might get blocked out of my account or something. But all this stuff is for real, and you guys got to start paying attention. We're going to get to the tipping point where we can't go back. And we're going to have to deal with whatever comes our way. Right now, we can actually manage this. Right now, if we take to the streets, if we put our foot down, if we collectively say enough's enough, we get back to the Constitution, we get back to privacy rights, we get back to the individual freedoms, that's the only thing that's going to save us. We get back to how our country was founded and brought up. Okay, all this big global stuff and this, you know, what do they call it now? The global economy and all that stuff. How's that working out for you? You got supply chain issues everywhere. We're the richest country on the planet, and we can't even get stuff to our country. We got baby formula by design, not on the shelves. All this stuff is to mess with you guys, right? And now I'm freaking out over this DNA thing. They don't have my DNA. But just imagine it's all pointed into areas, right? So they set up a center in a poor neighborhood, and then all you guys go there and you dump out all your DNA, and then they have a geographic area. They can say, let's just wipe out this whole neighborhood. And they'll take all that DNA, put all together their little things, and release it, right? I mean, you guys are letting them go to labs, mess with these viruses, add them to monkey viruses and dog viruses and stuff, right? And mix them up to see what happens, gain of function, all this stuff, right? They use our tax dollars to fund it. They're stealing your money out of your paycheck to do it, right? I mean, when is this gonna, how's this end? How does this end? You guys leave a comment down below and tell me, how does this end, right? What's the end game here?